welcome back. And before I get started and show you the piece of wood I'm going to turn, I have just a short little story to tell you about this piece of wood. So a little over 2 years ago, my wife and we took a trip up north. On the way home we stopped at Shady Acres. Well, that's Phil Anderson's place. He sent me home with some really nice olive wood. I've already turned a couple pieces, and there was one piece that it had a couple of cracks in it. I looked it over and I thought, you know, if I cut it there, I could get 2 or maybe even 3 turnings out of it. So that's what I did. And that was about a year ago that I did that. And I got this piece, I put it in the lathe and I started rounding it out. I looked it over and I thought, you know, for what I'm making, I'll end up wasting this piece of wood. So I took it out, put a piece of spalted sweet gum in and finished the project. So today, I plan on making something out of this. And I want to leave the bark inclusion, and looking at this piece, I think there's a lot more color up here, so that's going to be the top. And I actually had put a hole down here with the idea of flipping it around on the worm screw because of what I was going to make back then. And I did do that, I think, on the sweet gum. But that doesn't matter, because today, let's see if we can make something out of this beautiful piece of olive wood that Phil gave me. So I'm going to get it mounted up on the worm screw and we'll get going. Okay, we're all set. I've got it on the worm screw, I've got the live center up against it. I'm going to use a 5/8 bowl gouge and we're turning 750 RPM. Yeah, that's very pretty. Oh yeah. I guess I'm seeing a vase here now. I'll take a couple cuts up here, see what we can find for some pretty wood like this. Might take one more cut. I'll just move this line up here a little bit farther. Okay, I'll go ahead and get a mark on here and then we'll go with a tenon. Switch to my 1/2 inch. Boy, that is hard. Alright, that should be just right. Just going to clean this up with the negative rake scraper. Okay, I think we can go ahead and sand this. I like that shape. I certainly like that a lot. Okay, before I do any sanding, I've got a very thin edge right there where it's cracked, and that's just going to keep causing troubles as I sand. So I think I'll use some sawdust and brown Starbond CA glue. So I will say I'm not sponsored by Starbond, but they sent me some stuff to try, and I feel like if I'm trying it, you should know what it is. Put some of the shavings on it. Just try to camouflage the fact that I did this. Not going to fill that or this because it's not a feather edge. And this, same thing, I'm going to leave it. So far that's the only area that I need to do anything with. So I think I'll go make a cup of coffee. It's a little bit chilly. I'll let that sit up for a while. I'll come back and we'll get it sanded and flipped around. I think that CA is plenty hard enough to sand now. So I'll have the lathe running in reverse at 400 RPM. I'll start with 80 grit and we'll work our way up to 400, and then I'll put a finish on this. Get the dust collector going, of course. So also, I'm going to take this wire brush here and try to get down into this area, clean that bark up best I can. This has got some chipped wood. I'm going to peel that loose and then hit it with the Sandiflex and smooth it out. So that's what I'll do there, and I'll use the Sandiflex like this, and we'll try to get down in here, but I think that I'm going to need the brush right there. So I'll see you when it's time to get a finish on here. I have it sanded to 400 and it feels like a piece of glass. And it almost looks like there's a finish on it, and it feels that way, but there isn't. So instead of flipping this around and turning the inside, I want you to see the finish going on right now. So let's go ahead and get it on. I'm using shellac-based sanding sealer, and here it goes. This is usually a great moment to watch. There you go. That's where all the action is, right here. That is pretty nice. Not going to take long to get around this. Take this little acid brush and we'll get some down in this bark. Okay, I'm going to get it in this cracks too. There's a number of those, and you know, I sanded that CA glue patch out. I didn't like how it looked. It just didn't look natural. So I sanded it off and then I dubbed the end of these sharp edges. Looks like it might only need one more coat of sanding sealer, so I'll get that done and I'll get it flipped around and we'll do the inside. Looking pretty nice. I've got all the finish on it. I just flipped around and the only thing left to do is something to the inside. Well, sort of in a dilemma right now. If I turn this out so that it's maybe a 3/8 wall or a 1/2 inch wall, I would cut all this away, and I don't want to cut any of that away. It just looks great. With this beautiful olive surrounding that bark, it would just be a shame to cut any of that away. And I sort of knew that before I even got to this stage, so I picked up this little glass. And I think it's about the right size hole to drill in there and not touch this. This is a little bit long, but for now I might fit it to that and try to find another one of these before I upload this video, and hopefully this all works out. I can't even be sure the size of hole. I'll start out with a real small one. That's about maybe 7/8. We'll start drilling it because the wood's really hard. Wouldn't be able to drill with a 2-inch to begin with. So we're going to go ahead and do some drilling, and maybe I'll look at trying to hollow something in there to lighten it out, but maybe I won't. So that's the plan. I'm going to try this in high range. We're doing about 350 RPM. I didn't leave much before I reached here. I'll go ahead and get it drilled as far as I can. I'll come back and we'll see if we can figure out what to do next. I was able to drill a 2 1/8 inch hole 5.5 inches deep, and that should work. What I don't like is the looks of this thick wall here. That's almost 1 inch thick. This is really deep right here, so I can afford to take some of that off just to make it look better. I keep these little tenon pieces around for things like this, special setups and whatnot. I think this will help hold it nice and steady while I trim some of that away. I just sharpened up my 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and let's see what we can do here. 750 RPM. So it doesn't hurt that at all, and that looks fine. Let's see what we have here. Okay. I just think that looks better. It looks so clunky. I might even take a little more off. And I actually want to kind of straighten that out. That didn't hurt this at all. Not at all. It's over really good now in case I want to do a little more. There we go. Alright, I'm going to get this sanded up and get the finish back on it, and the next thing to do after that is to see if we can remove that tenon. I sanded this and reapplied the finish on this end last night, and now it's time to remove the tenon. I'll be able to expand the jaws inside of here and hold it while I'm removing that tenon. I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on it, but it doesn't take much for what we're doing. And we'll see if this will do what it was doing last night. I know I heard the rattling noise, and I know what it is, and I'll show you here in a second. Okay, you hear that? It's the live center. There's a hole right here. You put a rod through there so you can unscrew the tip. That put a little burr on there when I did that, so that's what that noise is. See, it's not a bearing or anything, it's this. Okay, let's go ahead and get that tenon removed and we'll be just about done. And I'll be using my 1/2-inch bowl gouge. I grab my face shield. About 600 RPM. A little piece of 220 grit here. Okay, we're done. Let me get this off the chuck and I'll show you what we have. Alright, here it is. Look at the beauty in that grain. Just spectacular. This is real smooth, almost looks like bone. This, my favorite right there, and I worked pretty hard to not cut a hole through there, and it took a design change because I was really bothered by how thick the wall was, so I took it off of here instead of the inside because we would have had a window. I mean, it's just right up against it right now. And that looks pretty cool as well. I used 2 coats of Zinsser seal coat and 2 coats of Zinsser shellac, and the only other thing I did was buffed it out with this white abrasive pad. Finished about 6 inches tall, 4 1/4 at the widest diameter, and the base is 3 inches. So the base is interesting. I used the laser pecker and engraved the Papa 1947 and olive wood, and we talked about I had a hole in the middle here because of a design I was going to do a year ago. Well, I've camouflaged that with a little bee in there, so you'd never know that it was in there to begin with. So I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks great. So what am I going to use it for? Well, that glass wouldn't fit in there. It was a 1/16 inch too big, and you know what? I wasn't going to take more off the diameter, because what would we do? We would have put a window in there. Clear down to here, I would have lost all that on the top. So I found a bottle I had. It had some grout sealer in it. That fits in there just right. So if she wants to put flowers in there, that'll work good. If she doesn't want that, she can use it to put her pencils in. But if they get real short, it's going to be hard to get out. So I am just extremely happy with this piece of wood. And a special thanks to my good friend Phil Anderson for giving me this. I really appreciated it. So that's about it for today, and I hope everyone enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, do me a favor. Click that like button and feel free to leave a comment. Both of those things will really help my channel grow. I do lots of different types of turnings, and you never know what might be next. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. And a special thanks to all my current subscribers. You really mean a lot to me. So, till the next time, see you later.